Time to go live. Ladies and gentlemen, we are seeing another sell-off in the market. Of course, reaction to news. So I'm going to go live here. Give me 1 sec. I'm going to post some announcements, Twitter, etc. We are live on the air. Second here, everybody. We'll take a look at the charts. Let's see here. Something. Okay, I need to present to my share. Sorry, guys, 1 second. I'm trying to get the charts up here for some reason. Google is censoring me. YouTube's not going to let me talk today. Oh, come on. Did not load. All right, let's try this again. See, the charts are so bad, it's not even loading. All right. I'm guessing you can see the charts. Hopefully you can see the charts. Let me look at the comment box here, make sure we are up and running, ready to go. Let me see here. Comment box. Here we go. Again. Don't worry, guys. I've done this before, I promise. Hey, from Germany. What was the news? So if you're just joining, just catching on, I'll pull the news article up on CoinDesk here. There was a delay. It's like not even that big of a deal, but the market is just so sensitive right now. And I mentioned this in my video yesterday, that we are one news article away from one way or the other market moving big. And we had a announcement from the SEC saying they decided to delay one of the ETF proposals, the Van Eck ETF proposal, to September. And on that, the market started to move lower. There was a cascade and a typical reaction. Stops get hit and it just keeps going from there. And so we very quickly, look at this chart, very quickly went from, we were sitting at around 6,900, 7K when that broke. And you can just see the last 3 hours have been very big volume selling. And it is breaking that 6,800 support after putting in a little bit of a double top here on this chart. You can see on the 4-hour chart. Let me go to the 4-hour. So that's it. I've been waiting for a bounce. Man, there has not been a bounce in sight. I was going to enter a short. I should have just entered when it hit that 7K mark. But I've been waiting for a bounce here. Unfortunately, my short would have been a very nice quick trade, but didn't manage to get that in. So it is not looking pretty, ladies and gentlemen. Now, we are definitely oversold in the short term, which is why I'm not willing to enter a short at this point, because it's just been so far so fast. I'd rather enter on a bounce. You can see on the 1 hour, we've hit the 20s RSI. The 5-minute has not seen a bounce yet. It's just been sitting here at these lows. It's trying to find a low here around this 66.50 or so. But man, oh man, very quick move. You can see here this started the cascade, and it was just a series of reaction to the downside. We had a little bit of a bear flag here on this 5-minute. I was seeing if we could bounce higher, and just saw another quick leg down. So I'm just going to sit tight for now, let this thing play out, see what's going on here. Let a little bit of a bounce reaction come in. They always bounce. It's just a matter of from what price. But we're seeing some quick selling. Now, here's the big picture, though. I mentioned this yesterday in my last update. I was talking about a couple of levels to watch. One was this box we've all been watching. Let me clear the RSI, kind of expand this a little bit here. I'll clear this, and I will clear this. We'll come back to that here in a sec. So one was this 6,800 zone. Now, technically, it could undercut, and then if we have a strong buying rally that closes above, like say at 6,900, okay, maybe we're out of the woods, but I'm not so optimistic right now. Going to the daily chart, we've had a full retracement out of this breakout following that inverse head and shoulder. The fact that it retraced so deep, I was talking about this is a little bit of a red flag, right? Had it pulled back and held at this 50% mark, which was right around that 7,300 zone, had it held there, things would look much more positive on the daily chart. Things would have just been a higher low. It would have been a pullback, but then we saw this break lower. I was thinking that's not good, especially over the weekend. We had that break. It just sat tight, but all it was just letting this moving average catch up. And you can see here how many red days we've had. One green day, but that was barely even a green day. It was just a quick reaction. A little bit of a pause is all it was. And here we are rolling over. Yesterday was a bearish reversal day. Today we had a chance to negate that, but that is continuing to roll over. There's about 3 hours left in the current daily candle. But I mean, if it closed like this would be significantly bearish. The volume is not way above average, but it certainly has been higher than any of the buying days we've seen here in the recent past. There's been one buying day, two buying days, and volume has been pretty weak. So absolutely the weak selling week continues. Alts were showing a little bit of life today. Man, I had a quick trade on that, and there was a couple of other setups that I was looking at thinking, you know, if Bitcoin can hold up, then we'll see some more life in the alts. But I was telling my group, take profits fast. And this is what I was concerned about, because I said one little spillover in BTC and it's just going to take out all of the alts. We'll look at a few here. So Ethereum was holding up, and it was a little bit of a leading indicator here today. I was kind of surprised earlier today that this was actually rolling over before BTC was. After sitting tight here, let me go to the 4 hour. Sitting tight, we had a strong rally here, and then it was just kind of pausing here for the last couple of days versus BTC. And this was looking pretty good here. It was about to break out, and then it just started to roll over today. And then, of course, when the Bitcoin news came out, this accelerated a little bit more. And this was kind of just a little bit of a leading indicator there. But, you know, there was a few alt trades that I managed to squeeze out here earlier today. We'll see if they can recover. Jumped in on the WAN trade here as it broke out. But I was certainly being cautious here. So when we hit the first milestone, I took half off the table. And then I took the other half off here around 1957, I believe it was, 1956. So, you know, I made for a nice little 15% gain. And I was waiting for a little bit of a pullback to maybe make a re-entry. But now with BTC doing what it's doing, I don't know if I'm going to be re-entering that trade anytime soon. Got to wait to see what the market does here. Give me 1 sec. I actually got to post this on the Slack group here on my other machine. And we will get back to it here. Okay. So if somebody's in the group, hopefully you guys can drop a link for me there. I appreciate that. So there were a few trades that were setting up. ICX was looking pretty good here earlier today, and it also unfortunately rolled over. We had this nice volume pop. I was looking at the 1 hour chart, took a small entry on this one here, and had a stop just below this swing low here on this wick. So clearly got stopped out on that one. But that was a relatively tight stop. It was about a 3% stop. And that's just because the market right now being so shaky was not willing to give it a whole lot more than that. But man, these markets are getting smacked. If we go to the coin market cap, we are now sitting at $250 billion here. The dominance, let's see what the dominance is at. BTC dominance here. I'm going to go to the 1 year. Now it's starting to trickle up again. It was peaked out here a couple of days ago at almost 49%, and we started to see a little bit of a pullback as some of these alts were trying to bounce off of the low. And they still might, right? This could all turn out to be higher lows, but certainly the momentum in Bitcoin is squashing any kind of potential rally we were seeing here. You can see how much volume was coming in ICX here earlier today. What were some of the other names that I was looking at here? EOS was one that was setting up here. It was trying to break out of this big falling wedge that I was watching here. We had a little bit of a rally on EOS. Let me go a little bit closer here. You can see it was just kind of making higher lows, higher lows, higher lows. Paused right here, Try to break out above that 10,000 Satoshi level, 10.1, and then you can see we had this big roll over here today. So not good, but that's unfortunately that's so typical of crypto markets, right? Is BTC will very often do that to the overall market. If you see a big sell-off, then you get the rollover across the board, and so correlation is significantly high in this market. So if you're trading, that's something you got to keep an eye on here, right? So that's why I tend to not overload on too many positions on the alts at any one time. Keep it to a few just because of that, right? Because if one gets stopped out, very often they all do if it's a reaction to the news type of thing. But these alts are long overdue for some sort of action, some rally. We'll see if they can hold. If they hold the most recent lows that we've seen here from a few days ago, this could just end up being a nice higher low, and then we'll see the alt bounce. That's all it's going to be at this point, a bounce, continue. But we'll see. You've been shorting BTC since 20K. All right. So do I think ETF delay would be good news? Not bad news. You would think, right? I mean, that's what I was thinking. It was like, you would think they delayed it, that just gives more time to price something in. It's just very unusual to see the reaction. It's like, oh, we're going to delay it, and everybody dumps. It's like, I don't know if that was the reason everybody, I mean, that's what started it, a little bit of a reaction, but you just see the cascade, right? Is the selling starts and everybody starts, and it just goes from there. And the more prices drop, the more people's stops get hit. There was a lot of people watching 6,800, and you saw it happen. I mean, prices went right down to 6,800. Let me go to the quick chart here, the 5-minute. You can see prices came right down. They're hitting around 6,850, bounce, 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 bounce. And as soon as we broke below that, I mean, look how quickly we went. In a matter of minutes, we went from 60, almost 6,900. We went all the way down to 6,648. And so there was a lot of stops that got hit on this single candle right there on that 5-minute. So yeah, this market is no kidding, JT. Crypto market is that right now. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, if you have good trading disciplines, and the good thing about crypto is it's created a lot of traders that normally wouldn't have traded other markets, and there are absolutely some nuances that are very specific to crypto. But in terms of some of the disciplines of trading, right, the risk management, the position entry and exits, the target profits, the risk reward ratios, even some of the strategies, right, buying pullbacks on uptrends, stuff like that, absolutely carries over to other markets. And you could, once you figure out the mechanics, the specifics of that other market, you could very quickly transition over to trading other markets such as Forex or something like that, right? And so there is, but so where do we go from here? Because this market is now confirming what we were suspecting here once it broke below 7,300. And so my rationale, and and of course this is just my opinion, and I hope I'm proven wrong, but this is just my opinion. And my rationale has been, it needed to hold this kind of 7,300 level. We were seeing a confluence of other support zones in and around that level, and breaking below that was kind of the first warning sign. And I thought, okay, if we break below that, we're going to start to see a little bit of an acceleration to the downside. Ultimately, 6,800 was kind of like the test. If it holds above that, we're still technically okay, but we're breaking below, right? And it's starting to confirm that was kind of the early signal. Now, here's where I'm, my opinion on where this goes, right? A lot of people are watching 6K as kind of like the must hold, right? We got to hold 6K. It's not over until we break below that. And I'm kind of differing from that opinion, right? My opinion is a break below 6,800, which is basically where we're at now, is a sign that this was a failed breakout, a full retracement. And I believe that if we hit 6K again, it's not going to hold this time. So why wait until that happens, right? That's just my opinion. I believe that if it continues to accelerate to the downside, it'll be pretty quick if it does. I mean, when you think about it, it's what, $700 away? That's not that much. And so, you know, we've had this test. Let me clear those fib levels for us so we can see that a little bit better. You know, we've had this test a couple of times this year, right? We had the extreme washout low here in February. And then we had this little bit of a 6K support, just above 6K form here in late March, early April. And then we had the big sell-off at the end of June, which culminated in that little bit of a double bottom around 5,800 in a very nice rally after that. I mean, peak to peak, Bitcoin went up, you know, 45%. And we know that a large part of that, especially the last 2 weeks of that, was absolutely driven by speculation of an ETF, right? And I fully believe and expect that ultimately we will have an ETF. I do expect that. But where will Bitcoin be at that point, right? Where will the prices be when that is announced, right? And that's obviously anybody's guess unless you have inside knowledge on that, which I absolutely don't, but that's anybody's guess. But until then, you know, the markets are going to just do what they want to do. And I think this break of 68 is going to lose confidence in this big move that we had. Last week was a big bearish reversing weekly candle, brought us back below the 10 EMA. And so, you know, technically, if it holds above that 6,300, right, you can say it's still there. But I'm expecting that you'll see some acceleration to the downside. So we will see. But the volatility continues. You're seeing some potential bounce action showing up here around this 68 or 66.50. Expected because we were just crazy oversold in the short run. So we'll see. That's why I did not enter a short here at this level, just because at this point, going short after such a big and a very quick drop is higher risk, right? Just because where do you put your stops, right? You got to put it all the way up here at 6,900 at least. And I wasn't willing to give it that much as far as the risk reward ratio goes on the trading side. And so you're seeing some support coming in here, but I mean, unless you see some massive buying coming in off the lows, I just expect it's going to be a bounce. That's really it at this point. You've got about, let me see, 2 hours and 30 minutes left in this 4-hour candle. It'll be interesting to see how this one closes out. But that last one, the way it closed out was the early indicator. I saw it rolling over. I said, looks like it's a bearish reversal pattern. And like literally when I posted that, like 5 minutes later, just the craziness started. And so it is what it is. All right, let's see here. What other charts here? Thumbs up, peeps. Thank you guys for being here. I didn't even announce this. I'm like, I better just go live. And so, hey, we're all here. We're all enjoying this insanity that we love called crypto. And so let me see here. Let me make sure my other charts. All right, cool. Thank you guys for posting the link there. And so, all right. I'm just trying to check out some comments here, some notes. Drinking some late afternoon Starbucks. Good thing I got my Starbucks before this all started. Oh man. And you know, I gotta say, guys, let's talk Ethereum Classic, because I saw an article today and I was like, really, guys, come on. But somebody was saying here before the selling started, right? The chart looked like this. There was an article talking about how now that we've had this big run up, Ethereum Classic is a great investment to consider for your portfolio. And I was thinking, really? Like, I hope most of you guys aren't making your buys and decisions off of crazy articles like that. So, I mean, you got to do your research, obviously, but everybody knows that this move in Ethereum Classic was purely driven on Coinbase announcing that they were going to start accepting deposits. They announced it there. And then they would start trading, you know, 24, 48 hours after that, which they started accepting deposits today. And so there was some front running leading up to that. Very typical. Buy the rumor, sell the news, right? I mean, and so we saw today here, they literally said, hey, we're going to start accepting deposits. Boom. You see the sell-off, high volume reversal. And it's not surprising, right? So, you know, hopefully you guys weren't FOMOing here at the highs when you started seeing it. If you did, the first warning was right here, this big reversal. It still held the 10 EMA on the 4-hour. Somebody was asking me on Twitter, hey, what do I think about ETC at this point? I said, I think it's done. And then we saw a little bit of a rally and then another pop to the downside. Now, at best, it'll just sit tight here, form a little bit of a consolidation, and then start going from there. At worst, it's just going to fully retrace the pre-news run, right? And you'll get prices back to the lows, if not lower. And so that's just typical of what happens in these markets. You kind of get that front running, the reaction, and then the news, you get the sell off. And so Ethereum Classic looks like it's done for now. You had this huge volume reversal. Sure, it could bounce just like everything else right now. But if it continues to make a series of lower highs, I'd be very cautious right now on this guy here. This is the BTC chart. I'll go to the USD part, but that's going to be resistance. So if you bounce here, if it can get above the 10 EMA on the 1 hour, then that's going to be your first level of resistance going on the way up. Let's take a look at it on the USD side. Look at it on, where we go. There we go. Tether on Binance. And so this is Ethereum Classic Tether on Binance. You can see basically had a little bit of a double top form here above that $20 mark. So you saw that first peak there, got another little peak there. If I pull up the RSI, I'm betting there was a divergence. Yep. And so, you know, that's just a classic, classic double top bearish divergence. Sorry, clicked the wrong one there. Let me show you guys what I'm looking at. So that's a little bit of a warning sign when you start to see that, especially if the second top is a big volume reversal. That's pretty much done deal. You don't need to wait for it to break the neckline, in my opinion. But you saw the neckline break, and you probably already seen the measured move on this guy play out to the downside. So the measured move would have been neckline there. Let me fix that. Neckline there. Extrapolate that out. Not quite. Still a little bit more down to go if it needs to. But that's it. Ethereum Classic done for now. Let's see what else we got going on here. What's our next target on BTC? 6,200. I would say 6,300. It's going to be the next one down. And then obviously 6K psychological. Everyone's going to be watching 6K. That's going to be the big one. Assuming we continue lower and assuming we don't, you know, find a low and bounce from here. Could totally happen, right? This could just be a big market reaction, fake out, shake out all the stops, and then we take off. That's being very optimistic, in my opinion. Let's go to the daily chart. That'll help a little bit easier there. Let me fix this. So on the daily, I'll take the RSI off here in a sec, but you can see I was watching the 40 hold as the RSI. That needed to hold because generally when things remain in bull mode, they hold the 40. And when they're in bearish mode, they can't get above 60. And so you can see here when we made the right shoulder for the inverse head and shoulder, we held above 40 on that pullback. It was also a 618 retracement. So that worked out really nicely. On this pullback, we were right back at the 618. We were also sitting right at the 40 and could not hold this time, starting to roll over. And if prices want to continue lower, they've got room to go before that daily RSI hits anywhere near oversold levels. And so we're getting there. But where's the next stop? From a pure price technical analysis, you know, horizontal price resistance, support resistance, your next stop is right here, right? It's that $6,200, $6,300 zone. That's going to be the next clear level of price support. But that's just a big retracement at that point. It's crazy close to the 6K mark. And so even if I saw a bounce at that point, I'm going to be a little skeptical. Now, the wild card, of course, the wild card is always that ETF that's kind of lingering out there. Now we have until September. And what happens if, you know, leading into the end of August, there's news and there's rumor that, hey, this is going to be approved. You'll see very quickly, if there is an announcement that it's approved, that you'll see the exact opposite of what we're seeing here, right? You're going to see in minutes, things would go up $1,000, shorts would get wrecked. I mean, it would be the exact opposite reaction, if not more so, right? Right now, it's just kind of, oh, everybody's kind of letting it go and it's getting hit. But in any kind of news on the upside, you would see just crazy reaction to the upside and follow through momentum. So that's something to consider there. But, you know, on the price side, that's what I'm looking at here. If it doesn't hold here, I mean, doesn't look like it wants to. It certainly could just totally reverse on the day and close in the green, but right now it's not looking good. And so below 6,800, then yeah, that's the next level run, 6,200, give or take. Give or take. A tether scare would be great. No, it wouldn't. Tether scare would do that too. So let's see here. Let's take a look at some of the other big names. Ethereum, man, Ethereum's getting hit pretty hard here. So looking at the ETH USD, not even bouncing. Yeah, we need Elon to tweet about a Bitcoin ETF. we need Elon to tweet about Tesla is going to buy half the Bitcoin in the world here. That's funny. So let's see here. Looking at ETH, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Go to the 4-hour charts. Look at the volume on that guy. Wow. Ethereum is being hit pretty hard. Look at this sell-off volume on that. I mean, just sellers across the board. Once it broke that support, that was pretty clear support at 400. You can see that was a little bit of a descending triangle showing up on Ethereum right there. Clear support right at 4,800. Once that was hit, I mean, just very quickly, how quick of a move was that? Was down about 7% in no time, regardless of what the catalyst was. I mean, at the end of the day, like, there's news, and yes, you got to pay attention to the news, but at the end of the day, especially if you're trading, you really don't care about what the catalyst is. You just care about what the charts are saying and what they're doing, right? It's the reaction and the price action that ultimately matter, and not so much the reasons why when you're looking at this stuff. I know a lot of people are talking about, oh, there's the fundamentals for the space are so strong and crypto's good, and I totally agree. Fundamentally, long term, there's a lot going for this space. But near term, right, the market doesn't usually care about fundamentals. It just cares about reactions to that and how things are happening. I mean, the fundamentals ultimately come home to roost. But between now and then, right, I mean, you get this. You get all the crazy wiggles, the prices, because at the end of the day, price action, charts, patterns, right, this is a representation of all the market participants and the beliefs they have about future prices. That's all this is. This is just buyers and sellers battling it out, and clearly there's more selling demand and selling pressure than there is buying demand and buying pressure, because people right now believe prices are going lower, and so they're willing to sell at lower prices. And that's it. At the end of the day, that's market psychology, right? Fear and greed and what people believe about prices. And you and I included, whenever you make a trade, whenever you buy something, you're buying it because you believe it's going to go higher. And when you're selling something, you're selling because you believe it's going to go lower. Or you believe that it's maybe too high and you're going to take profits or whatever, right? So that's really it. But yeah, let's see here what else we got here. So we got a lot of traders, we got a lot of hodlers, we got a mix of both. Next stop, homeless. Oh, don't worry. I hope none of you guys are going to go broke over crypto. I really hope not. I mean, I was looking at some of the tweets here over the week, and and I empathize. There's a lot of guys and gals out there that they had a big run Q4 of last year, and then they were at very high peaks in terms of portfolios, and then over the last 7-8 months, there's been a big reaction, and you've seen portfolios go down 60%, 70%, 80%. And I know there's a lot of you guys out there that are in that boat. And so I'm not making fun of it, or certainly not taking it lightly. I mean, it is what it is. But one thing you got to keep in mind here in this space that's so volatile and so young is take some profits along the way. And I get it. There's tax implications and there's all that, but and everyone has to make their own decisions on that. My personal belief has always been, I'd rather just pay taxes on some gains than watch my portfolio drop 60, 70, 80%. That's just been me, right? I mean, I'm just, I'm willing to cash out a little bit along the way, because isn't that what we're in here for, right? At the end of the day, if you're trading and investing, you're looking to take some bank some profits, and especially on the alts, right? Things like Bitcoin and stuff like that. I'm a huge long-term believer. It's probably the one coin I'll hodl for years. Everything else, you know, I'm just a little bit more active maybe than most people are willing to be or whatever. But and it does kind of take having to be a little bit more nimble. And there's a balance. You definitely don't want to be overactive where you're like buying and selling and moving, because then you'll miss a lot of the move that way too. But somewhere in between. Let's see, DC double bottom on ETH here. Let's go take a look. Oh, you mean on this? Yeah, this is what I've been talking about here. ETH was testing these lows again here. So that 360, which is about where we tested here in April, that's kind of a must hold. The fact that, you know, we've made this rally here and then a lower high, not looking pretty. So it's got to hold that 360. If it breaks below this little zone here, then you could see a pretty big leg down to, you know, the 200s. So, you know, 280s, 250s. That would be crazy. 200 ETH, 250 ETH. Imagine. Hey, anything can happen in this market. Anything can happen. All right, let's see here. Let's take a look at some of the other names. ICX. Somebody was talking about ICX here. Oh yeah, that wild bar there. Just trying to bounce here a little bit. So we'll see. Bitcoin reacts positively. We get a little bit of a bounce. Then my approach here going into August has been trading the alts anyway. And so I've been looking at alt BTC pairs and looking to gain BTC value from that. And then obviously if Bitcoin breaks certain levels, then I just get out of the way. But, you know, ICX was holding up nicely here. Let's take a look at some of these other ones here. Oh, let's see here. You invested your life savings. A lot of people did. I know some people did. I had to talk one person out of it doing that. So they were calling me like in November saying, I have saved up X amount of money and I want to drop it all into Bitcoin right now. I was like, you know, you might want to wait a little bit. If you can't help yourself, buy a little bit, but don't do it all just here. Let's say here. Stocks in a bull trend, but slow. That's the thing, right? Stocks are, I mean, there's certain stocks, the right ones, you can play momentum stocks. Usually they're small cap, small float stocks, but big cap names, they are slow, especially if you're used to crypto. All right, let's take a look at some of these. So storage, that's a name from yesteryear. Storage was hitting my radar earlier on some of the alerts, and I was like, what? Storage? It looks like it's bouncing, but right now, look at where it's bounced into. Right, it's bounced right into this support, or excuse me, this resistance zone. Not saying it's not going higher, but you see there's a little bit of a battle taking place here. You've had a few wicks above this place. If it could rally higher, that's good. And next stop would be looking at that place here around 8,200. And so, but it's had a nice strong move here. Off of the low here was about 30%, not too bad. My approach with these counter trend trades, assuming you got in at the lows here somewhere, is I'll take the profits quick here. I'll try to book those relatively quickly. You'll see you're basically testing this resistance here right now. Let's see here. You got some gains? All right. Tether. You know, I was looking at Ontology, actually. Ontology was sitting tight here at the lows. It was on my radar. It's still looking pretty good. Hasn't sold off quite as much. So yeah, definitely looking pretty good here at the lows, trying to form a little bit of a base. Now I just got to confirm, right? It's got to break above this little bit of a resistance near term, but it is looking good. It's kind of reminding me of what WAN was looking at before I had that little move higher, right? This was how WAN looked, you know, a few days ago. And so this was sitting nice, and I had a conditional buy order right here at this blue line at 1,700, and it broke, right? And so Ontology is looking pretty similar there. Oh, VET. Yeah, VeChain Thor was sitting tight here and trying to curl up the right side here. Let me take this off. You know, it's just, it had that debut, nice pump, and it just totally rolled over. It's trying to form a low here. It's definitely not looking strong, but I've noticed that how tight it's sitting. but you could argue that this is also a little bit of a descending triangle pattern with the rallies getting lower and lower and lower. So it's kind of coming up to a little juncture here, right? It needs to break out from above this resistance pretty soon, or it's going to break below this support at around 18, or not 18, 184. So getting close, sitting pretty tight here. Could go either way, but right now it's leaning bearish. OMG. Oh, me say go. Maybe a double bottom forming. Maybe. Let's see here. RSI. You got a slight divergence showing up on that RSI. It needs to confirm, though, right? So got the makings of a potential double bottom forming here on OMG, but you want to see some strong move to the upside now. Otherwise, it's going to make a new low, and then this divergence probably won't matter because you'll see RSI continue to drop. So that's how you got to look at those. Let's see here. What else? Nano. Nano was looking good earlier. It's trying to break out of some near-term resistance here around that 2290 mark or so. And you can see it was trying to clear, and some good volume was coming into here. And it's still not, the chart's not broken here on this guy. Obviously, versus BTC, it's holding up okay, but Bitcoin, as we know, is taking a hard hit. But Nano was looking actually pretty decent here. I was liking this little pop. This was one that was on my radar, but I didn't jump on it because I already had a couple other trades open at the time, and I didn't want to overdo the alts because I was thinking if Bitcoin drops here, their alt's going to take a hit, and they did. But this one's holding up relatively well. So again, another name that was just crazy oversold. If you look at, look at where it bounced to, bounced right to the 10 EMA on the daily. That's one of the moving averages I like to use, the exponential moving average. And there's no hard fast rule. You can use a 9, you can use a 12. I use a 10. It just depends on the strategy you're using, but 10 all around is kind of a nice short-term moving average for me. And you can see very often prices come right to that point. And you can see today, that's where Nano paused. We'll see if we can break through. 0x. At 0x here. So I've been watching this broader pattern on 0x. Kind of starting to coil up here a little bit. So far, it's holding this lower trend line. You can see there was a bounce attempt there. Still can't get above the daily 10 EMA. And in fact, you're seeing a little bit of distribution as it tries to rally. So if it pulls back and holds this line again, that'll be positive, because then you'll look at a potential rally off that line. Alternatively, a break below that line, and most importantly, this most recent low here, then that's a failed breakout. This is a symmetrical pattern, so it could break either way. But 0x has the Coinbase and News potential going for it. If it gets added, you can see some added interest here, which will continue to drive the price higher. And so that's, it's got that going for it there, that potential news catalyst. 21 EMA, yeah, 21's pretty good. Or you use a 21 straight MA. I use a 26 weighted moving average. I use a 10 EMA and a 26 weighted. Seems to be a pretty good combination for me here. Let's see what else here. Lumens. Stellar Lumens, another one of the Coinbase 5. Man, I wasn't even planning to do a live stream today. I had some other stuff on the schedule. I thought I'm going to get this done today and that done today. And and then crypto said, nope. I had a good day going too, man. Had booked some gains. Had some trades setting up. What do you do? What do you do? So looking at Stellar, I'll take off my other moving average here. But looking at Stellar, it's still just not looking too strong following that little double top it did here. It had that double top right there. And since then, it's just kind of been this slow grind lower. First thing I want to see it do is break above that 10 EMA again on the daily. In the short term, looking at that 4-hour charts, it's still technically making a series of lower highs. So not not exactly a strong pattern just yet. So I'd be waiting for this to reverse. Am I short Bitcoin here? I'm not short Bitcoin. Unfortunately, I missed my short entry. I was looking at this reversal happening here. Where is it? At 7K. It did a that was really my signal. I should have taken it. I didn't though. And I posted it, and like literally 5 minutes later, after I posted it in my group, it just tanked. But I was talking about, hey, a bullish reversal is forming on this 4-hour candle. I think I posted that like 6 minutes before the close of that 4-hour. That was it, right? You see that pattern, that 1, 2, 3 pattern reversal here, big bearish engulfing candle. That was probably a good short entry with the stop just above here around that 71.60, 71.70. And then the news came out and we broke lower. And so what I'm looking for now is a potential bounce. We'll see how that bounce looks. Either a bounce back into that 7K, 6,900 or so, or if it just sits tight here and kind of does a little bear flag or something, then you may see it set up another leg down here. So that's what I'm looking at this point. I'm just sitting in cash, just sitting tight, which is not as fun. Yeah, not taking trades you planned. I know. It is what it is. You should. You should always. If you have a strategy and a plan and you see your signal, you should do it. All right, here, let me see. BNB. Let's look at BNB. It's actually been sitting here pretty tight the last 3 days, so not too shabby here. Let's go to the 4-hour charts. Versus Bitcoin, of course, it's flat. I mean, if you look at the BNB tether pair, it's going to be taking a hit, just like Bitcoin is right now. So you're seeing this kind of stair step lower. But, you know, it's, I don't know, it's kind of a choppy chart here. Almost has a little bit of a head and shoulder type of look to it, right? You got this guy here. It looks like it's starting to roll over. So I'm not too inclined unless it starts to really break out versus BTC on that side. So looking at Icon, somebody's asking about Icon again. We did take a look at this earlier. It was looking really nice here this morning and was pulling back constructively following that big volume pop to the upside. Had another little rally attempt, but then just rolled over with Bitcoin taking a hit. So at this point, it's kind of nothing to do anymore. Got to wait for this thing to recover. We'll see how this latest 4-hour candle looks, but at this point, that was, you know, a big pop and a rollover here. What was the other one you guys are asking about? Oh, Quantum. Quantum. Interesting little flag pattern is trying to form here on this 4-hour. You can see the downtrend, right? So I'd be looking for a break of this little downtrend here. Could make for a nice little bull flag. If it gets too much deeper, that'll kind of start to negate it. The fact that it's basically holding this breakout point, you can see this yellow line. Let me clean these other ones off. I think I was looking at those as upside targets on Quantum. You can see this little breakout point here. I'll move this down to the closing bodies there. And you can see this is pulled right back to that breakout and trying to form some support here. So not a bad setup here versus Bitcoin. See if it can muster a little bit of a rally here, but looking at it versus dollar, also breaking lower along with everything else. A little bit of a rally attempt here and then just kind of rolled over today. So dang, Bitcoin had to ruin everything. Oh, let's see here. Did I go over EOS? I did a little bit. Let me go through some of these other ones and then I'll go. Man, IOTA had such a big move over the weekend and then just got dumped hard. Look at that. Big rally, pull back, big rally, and then just really got smacked. I thought the smacking happened yesterday. Got another smacking today. Let's see what else we got. 6,700 BTC here. Let me go back to Bitcoin. We'll keep coming back to Bitcoin throughout the stream here. Looking at this, and I'll do a recap in terms of my thoughts near term, intermediate term, in terms of what happens with Bitcoin next. But we're trying to hold a little bit of a low. Again, it was hitting some very oversold levels. Look at the volume here, absolutely panic selling, stops getting smacked as it break right through that 6,800 level. Now we're on the other side of that 6,800 mark. We'll see if we could bounce here a little bit, but every time it does this, right? So little short lesson on kind of price resistance horizontal. When it broke above or below 63, or excuse me, when it broke below 7,300, right? That's going to be your next resistance on any bounce attempts, if it could even get there. And now that it's broken another level, right? 6,800 was kind of that level. Any bounce attempts into 6,875, 6,900, that's going to be your first resistance on the way up. And most of the time what happens is a level that held as support, they held it. When it finally breaks, it flips around, right? It now becomes resistance on the way up. So unless you get some really strong buying conviction or volume to break through that resistance, you're going to see some sellers showing up there until that is worn out, and then it can start moving higher. So that's going to be the level to be watching on any bounce attempts. Unless it gets back above, say 6,900 or so today, it's not looking positive. So how low BTC here? Let me recap here real quickly. Going back to the daily. Now the daily RSI has room to go. So if it wants to get in oversold territory, absolutely has room to go. That's the bad news. We are starting to get a little stretched on the daily 10 EMA here. So again, looking for a little bit of a bounce or a pause. But next price support is right around that 6,200 zone. So that's going to be next stop. And then, of course, the 6K psychological mark, which everyone's going to be watching. But I'm not so confident it'll hold this time around. I hope I'm proven wrong. If we test 6K and it bounces, that'd be great. But right now, odds favor the momentum to the downside. And so I'm absolutely taking a much more cautious stance from that perspective. Let's see, what else? What was I going to look at next? That was another one I was looking at here. Smash those like buttons, ladies and gentlemen. We did IOTA, we did Quantum. I thought that was another one here. Oh, BAT. Let's take a look at BAT. Look at the basic attention token. It was moving up nicely. It was for the last few hours. Yeah, it was actually looking really strong here, but you did start seeing some distribution show up. Look at this big volume reversal right at the top. Biggest volume of this rally so far. That was kind of your first warning signal when you see that happen there. Right there. Big volume. If I'm on a trade and it does that, generally I'll either book it or I'll make the stop super tight at that point and let it stop me out. And so you can see we had a little bit of a double top form since then, and now it's pulling back. And so first test will be, is it just a pullback right to the breakout point? And so let's see if you get throwback. If you find some support there, it could just be a normal throwback. But for now, it looks like it's going to pause. Let's see here. IOTA, the stable coin. All right, ZIL. Yeah, we'll take a look at ZIL, NEO. Let's see here. I'm reading your comments. Oh, you had AirSwap. That's right. Let's take a look at that one here. Notice thy God. You guys cracked me up. Good times. Another crazy day in the crypto space here. Let's go look at some of these names. ZIL. Go to ZIL on Binance. So ZIL, let me zoom out first, show you guys what I was watching on ZIL, which is not playing out right now. So I was looking at ZIL forming a potential falling wedge, and you saw a break out of that, but look at where the break paused here. Let me zoom in, make this a little easier to read. You had the break out of that falling wedge, broke the upper trend line, and then paused right at the 10 EMA again. So rallied right into that point, exponential resistance, and there it is, pulling back. And so I did have a trade on this over the weekend. And so here's how I traded this, because when you're trading counter trend trades, again, you got to take them with a grain of salt. You can't expect them to just rally hard. And so I actually entered it here on this guy, on that candle. And you can see it was choppy for a little bit, but then we had a little bit of a rally. And once we rallied out, I basically took about a third off the table and banked that and raised my stop up. And so effectively what I did is I eliminated the risk of the trade, right? So the portion that was left was essentially a risk-free trade because I banked profits on a third and then I moved the stop up on the rest. And so my plan was just to let it ride. My stop was at 770. And the plan was to let it ride. And if I got stopped out, well, at the end of the day, it didn't cost me anything. And you can see broke the stop, and since then has just been rolling over. And so it's not looking too good here at the moment. So it's off my radar right now. The fact that we had a little rally attempt and look at the volume on the sell-off is very significant. So it's just very bearish action there on ZIL. That's considering how oversold it is, and it's still looking bearish. Just very bearish action. Very bearish action. Say that 10 times fast. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Litecoin. Yeah, we haven't done Litecoin. What is this? Wrong one. All right. So looking at Litecoin, you can see I was highlighting this level of resistance that needed to be taken out. This is Litecoin dollar, and it's also breaking below support now on this recent move. So breaking below that $73 mark, Litecoin at $67. So that's a big break of support here, guys, unfortunately, on this guy. So just not looking good on the Litecoin right now. Going to the 4-hour chart. A lot of these names, especially the bigger cap, they had this big volume smackdown. Litecoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin. So that's it on Litecoin for now. Let's see what else we got. Bcash, Bitcoin Cash looking the same way here. Breaking below this support around that 685 or so. Big break to the downside. Again, it was making a series of lower lows, so still was never looking really strong anyway, right? Just kind of breaking lower lows, lower lows, lower lows, or lower highs, lower lows. And that's continuing the pattern still. Looking at Ripple. We'll do a few more, guys. Just wanted to bring that quick update. I saw the market's breaking down. I was going to do an altcoin video today, and then once we started to see the sell-off, I said, what the heck? Time for a live stream. And so if you didn't know, if you didn't see it, there was some news. The SEC has delayed a decision on a proposed ETF, the Van Eck. But it's kind of, I mean, I was expecting a little bit of a reaction, but kind of surprising at how strong it moved to the downside. You know, it'd be one thing if they said we are denying the ETF and we're not going to approve anything, but the fact that they just said we need more time to review, and yeah, it's like everybody dumped it. It's like, really? So whatever. All right. Let me see here. What else we got here? Scrolling through the comments. Ripple. Oh, that's right. I was looking at Ripple. So looking at Ripple, man. Oh, I was going to say, is that the daily chart? That's not. That's the 4-hour chart. I was going to say, how many red days in a row can you go? Man, Ripple was actually setting up nicely here. We had this little double bottom forming right here, and it was starting to stair-step higher versus BTC, but these last 2 days have been pretty rough. Just a little bit of a bounce and not really much of a bounce. I mean, if we do a retracement analysis since this swing high, it's not even really a swing high. You can see it went to the 382. If you start it from back up here, I mean, couldn't even muster that. So seeing some pulling back here. We'll see if this forms a higher low on the 4-hour chart. You can see it technically still has this double bottom in place right there. And this was looking nice because it was making a higher high, higher low, a little bit higher high, just kind of these flag patterns. Here's the thing on these flag patterns. I really like these. These make for some nice secondary entries, but I will only buy the first or the second one, right? And this is a good example of that, right? You get that breakout. So instead of FOMOing into one of those big green candles, you just wait for a retracement. And so, you had this reversal candle following that red. That's a good first entry right here. Then you had another little flag, and that's a good second entry. Beyond that, I wouldn't have made any more entries on a pullback, just because third or fourth entries are usually a little bit long in the tooth, a little bit risky. And at that point, I'd be waiting to see a little bit stronger of a pattern, like an ascending triangle or something like that. But trying to find support. Technically, it's still a higher low here, but man, look at that. How many 4 red hour bars in a row there? Let's see here. Yeah, there's been some other interesting news today, guys. I don't know if you guys have been following the the InfoWars being banned, and just some of they're calling it the purge on some of those alternative conservative news outlets. And regardless of what your political stance is, which side of the aisle you lean on, you should be concerned when you see that. When you see the big tech companies silencing points of view that they disagree with, that's a little concerning, right? And I get it. They should censor some things, right? Like terrorists should not be allowed to go on their platform and promote and do stuff like that. I get it. But man, it's a slippery slope. And you start to silence the dissenters. And a lot of it is just, and it's the age-old story, right? This is not new. The platform is new. The methodologies are new. The tactic is not new. The desire to control the media and public opinion has been around since media and public opinion has been around, and that will never end. The internet was the great destabilizer in that, because suddenly you didn't need to know what your newspaper editor thought. You could go online and there was free speech and free communication and all that. But we have since then consolidated. I mean, something like 80% of most people's traffic, news, social media, etc., is controlled by the big companies, right? The platforms, Apple, Google, Facebook, Twitter. They control a lot of these companies, and they're constantly buying up other companies that are competitors or whatever. But anyway, you guys should be aware of that, especially in the crypto space, because a lot of us, we came to this space because of the notion of a decentralized environment, because of the notion of a free currency and a peer-to-peer and all that good stuff. And communication is a big part of that. And your points of views being censored are scary, to say the least. Fake media. All right. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, and honestly, I don't care about politics. I don't mean to get into the who do you vote for and what's right and wrong. I mean, that's not the point. That's absolutely not the point. And at the end of the day, most politicians are they're politicians. Oh, anyway, Bitcoin. All right, let's see here what else we got. I see a glimmer of green in one of the charts here. Let me go to the 5 minutes. You're just seeing a little bounce. 5-minute bear flag. Let me clear my blue box here. So this is the 5-minute chart of Bitcoin. Basically, since I started the stream here a few candles ago on the 5 minutes, you're just seeing a little bit of a bounce here. Again, the levels to be watching on the upside. The 1 hour is absolutely stretched to the downside. So 2 ways that I'm going to watch here. Either this thing goes flat for a little bit, sits tight, lets this 10 EMA catch up, or a little bit of a bounce counter trend rally going into around that 6,900 or so, maybe even before that. And then then we'll see. That'll be interesting, right? But my expectation is you'll get a bounce, then you'll get another leg down. Now that second leg down is going to be the differentiator, right? Because is it going to be a higher low and then we continue higher, or is that going to be the next leg down and we break and make a new low? And I'm thinking it's the latter, but we'll see. I'll take it one chart at a time. So for now, in terms of my trading, I'm just going to sit tight and let this play out. I'm not going to buy any extreme lows or catch falling knives or bounce trades or anything. I basically closed out my open trades that I had left for the day right here when we started to roll over. It was more like right there. And I said, yep, that doesn't look good, getting out of the way. And I'm kind of glad I got out when I did, because it got a little bit worse. But now I'm just waiting, see what happens here. So does 6,800 mean it broke support? Then it will go lower. Technically, yes, but here's the but. Here's the but. We haven't closed on the daily candle, so there's a little less than 2 hours left, and so this current candle will say a lot, but the momentum is clearly the downside. The fact that we couldn't even hold the 618 and broke below that is bearish, right? Once we broke the 7,300 up here, that was kind of the first warning that it's not looking too good. I mentioned that in a video a few videos back, and then yesterday I posted an update saying it's not technically over, but we're vulnerable here, right? Any little piece of news, I think that's what I titled it, Bitcoin vulnerable or crypto vulnerable or something like that. And it was because of the sensitivity around the news right now, and that's exactly what we're seeing play out today. We're seeing it just break out of that news. Let me load. I don't want to try to show too many indicators here all at once, but let me find the Ichimoku. And so there was a couple of things to note here, right? So for those of you that follow Ichimoku trading in the cloud, this is a good trend following indicator. You can see here from July 12th up to end of July, prices were moving higher, moving above the cloud. That was a clear indication that the trend was still higher. Then we started to pull back, and there's two levels of support to look at here. The first was the top of the cloud as well as the TK and the Kijun-sen line. We broke below that. Very often you'll get a cloud-to-cloud move, meaning you'll get to the other side, which we did. That was also this 7,300 zone. That was also the 3.8 or the 50% retracement zone. And so there was a lot of reasons why we wanted this to hold. We bounced, hit resistance at the TK line, and boom. And now we're just hitting resistance there against the TK line, and boom. So that was another reason why I was like, 73 needs to hold. Now that it broke below, this is bearish near term. If you go to the 12-hour, it was testing the top of the cloud on the tower. 12-hour looks like it's breaking below there. So there's just a confluence of indicators here that are showing why it's not good. And so you ask me, does that mean it's over? 68 broke? Yes and no, but now the momentum has absolutely shifted to the bears, right? And so you're leaning bearish. By all indications, you're leaning bearish. You're below the 10 EMA. The 10 EMA is below the 26. You're breaking below key support levels. You're breaking below key Fibonacci ratios. I mean, anything can happen, but going based off of the pure technicals, then I'm going based off of that. And this is telling me that the trend is absolutely bearish right now. Simple as that. All right, let's see here. So do you have advice what to do if you haven't sold since January? Feels like I'm late to sell in my alts and BTC, for example, into USD. Yeah, that's a good question. And so let me zoom to the weekly, right? Or actually the daily's fine. Let me tackle that question from a different angle here. If I was looking to buy these points down here, down here, down here, down here, right? this is where I'd be buying. And in fact, that's where I started adding back in, right? Was at these levels, right? Because you're at historic lows, you're at RSI extremes on the daily, and if it turns out to not be the low, then you don't got to give it that much room to the downside before you say, okay, get out of the way again, right? And so if I hadn't sold here near the highs, excuse me, if I hadn't sold here near the highs, I mean, it's kind of hard to say here what I sell now. 6,800, breaking below 6,800, if it closes much below that, I probably, me personally, may start scaling out here at the 6K range or hold till 6K breaks, right? But it's just hard to say because you have the ETF, you're right at historic lows for the year. It could just very as easily move to the other side. But that being said, the trend has certainly showed that, hey, we have a break, we move higher, we break, we make a new low. What if this is the same pattern repeating and we're going to make a new low? And I have said that if Bitcoin breaks lower, my ultimate low that I'm watching out for is that 5K area, right? In and around that 4,800, 5K. And so maybe that's a pattern we see this time. We break 5,800 and we break down to 5K. And so you have to ask yourself, am I willing to ride that out? And everybody's different, right? Some people need the money right now. They need it in a month from now. I mean, it depends on your time horizon. If you believe Bitcoin is going to be at $50,000 eventually, then you probably don't care about another $1,000 drop, right? Like, it just depends on your time horizon and all that. So it's hard to say, right? From a trading perspective, purely trading, short-term thinking, when I see something break down like that, I just get out of the way. And I'll wait for the trend to either turn back up or I'll look to re-enter at another extreme low. And so kind of just depends on your strategy and your time frame. I know that's not the clear answer, but there's a few things to consider there. All right, let's see here. What else? 3,000, maybe. Tone says 5K. I think Tone says 12K, 1,200, 2K. 5K, there's some good reasons why 5K would be a strong level of support if it continues lower. If it continues lower. You missed the first hour. Sorry about that. I know I didn't announce it. This was literally an impromptu live stream. I appreciate you guys joining. As you know, I jumped on because we saw this news break. We saw prices break, and I was actually going to be doing a altcoin review, and then everything just shifted so fast. I thought this is a good time for a live stream. So here we are, live, looking at the charts here. Let's see what the Bitcoin dominance is doing now. Bitcoin dominance is back to that 48 mark or so, in and around that 48. After the alts were trying to bounce from these extreme lows, looks like they're starting to underperform Bitcoin again, which is why the dominance is rising even though Bitcoin prices are dropping. You see the alts dropping at a faster rate. Higher beta. Smash those likes, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate it. You guys are always up for a live stream. That's good. People from all over the world too. I'm always amazed. It's like, oh, I'm gonna do a live stream, and it doesn't matter what time of the day it is. You got the whole globe covered. It's awesome. All right, let's see some other. Let me go here real quick. All right, we'll take a look at a few more. What names do you guys want to look at here, and then we will wrap this up. Let me go here real quick. Oh yeah, somebody was mentioning Pundy earlier. WAN chain was up much bigger earlier. Icon I was in the trade on that earlier. Link, ontology, sitting tight, setting up here. Not too bad. We'll take a look at pivots. I think somebody was asking for pivots earlier. We did Stellar. We did Basic Attention. Bitcoin Diamond. Nobody cares about that. Metaverse. And then everything else underperforming Bitcoin here. All right, let's go take a look at pivots. That's a name I haven't seen in a while. Pivots. I guess it hasn't been that much of a while. I have it marked up here from a few weeks ago, but let's see. Potential divergence showing up. Let me see. Double bottom, maybe. Yeah, it's trying. So you got a potential divergence showing up here. You've got this low here. Potential double bottom as this RSI diverges higher. So one to keep an eye on here. But with all of these, right, you don't want to preempt the low because at that point you're just guessing that that is the low, even though there's potential signs showing that sellers might be slowing down. You want to look for some reversal confirmation to the upside here first. At least it closed above that 10 EMA. It's been struggling to get back above here recently. Chainlink. Yeah, Link was moving earlier today. Let's check it out. Still not looking too bad. Maybe this is going to be a higher low on that daily chart. Had a very strong move a few days ago or a week ago off of the low. And look at this. I mean, this doesn't look like a lot, but this was up 70, 80% in 6 days. I mean, that's very nice. So big move. You're seeing a big pullback. Let's see if we can make a higher low on this guy. Going to the 4-hour chart. Just kind of sitting tight right now, so not too bad. It was trying to get going earlier today before the selling pressure continued. But right now you can see it's right at this little breakout point, right? We're broke above resistance here. It's kind of testing it a few times. So see if it can hold. Let's see here. What else? 1 hour ETH BTC. Let's go take a look at that. That one was setting up nice before selling. Oh, yeah. Look at that big hammer candle there. Big hammer reversal. Let's see if it can continue. But, man, that thing pulled back pretty quick, pretty far. What else here? Let me go take a look at Virg. Virg. I haven't seen Virg in a while. All of these alts from yesteryear, they're all still getting hit pretty hard. Virg, the slide continues. Once it broke below support here, you can see it's just struggled to get back above. And, you know, this moving average is really what I'd be watching here near term. It tried here. I mean, this is big volume off the low. That was a good sign that, hey, maybe we're done. But didn't see any follow through. Just bounced right into resistance and has given it up and some. So not looking like it's done just yet, unfortunately. And right now it's sitting right at support here around that 260 zone, 258. Much below that, that's going to be another break of support, and you'll see a quick leg down. Let's see here. Wasn't Z Classic setting up again? Z Classic again? Yeah, Z Classic was sitting here trying to hold up. It still is. Still holding up. All right. Just kind of watching these comments here. Scrolling through. I've done most of these names, guys. So for the sake of time, I probably just won't go through them again. How long have I been going anyway? Probably about an hour or so. But we'll wrap it up here shortly. We love Node Investor. Thank you, guys. I appreciate the likes, guys. I appreciate you guys being here, checking out this live stream, this impromptu live stream. We did Ripple. We did EOS and IOTA. All right. Let's do, I'm going to do Lisk and I'll do Neo, and we'll go ahead and wrap it up. So let's do Lisk. We're going to Lisk BTC here. Let me go to the weekly chart here. How far, man? This is on Binance. I know it's not the full history, but it's basically right to the lows here on the Binance debut. If I go to Bittrex, you see it's right at this support zone on this weekly. So this is a key support zone on Lisk here. I mean, it's basically fully retraced this move here. So let me pull that back here. See right there, right? That resistance when it broke out, it's been tested a few times now, and you're basically right there. Now, the thing with support, unfortunately, is the more it tests, eventually the buyers that keep stepping up at that level get worn out, and you'll eventually just break below that. So got to be cautious on something like that here. But it's just you're seeing more distribution show up here right at support. So it's at a key level. Has not been able to get back above the 10 EMA on this daily chart. And Neo still within this falling wedge that I'm watching. It's still living below the 10 EMA on the daily, and so you got to be cautious with that. But I am watching this pattern as it continues to tighten up here and looking for a potential reversal. For this guy here, let me go to the 4-hour chart. This is Neo BTC. We'll go to Neo Dollar, which I think is like at, what, 26 bucks or something. Crazy. But you can see it's just bouncing right into that trend line, pulling back here. So nothing to do yet. Neo USD breaking down here today. $25 Neo. Now, one thing to note, I guess the only positive here, other than it's $25 Neo, is you're starting to see the RSI kind of hold here near the 30-40 zone as prices move lower. So maybe the sellers are losing momentum here, but certainly there's no signs of bullish reversal action yet. You can see every attempt has just been a lower high, makes a new low, lower high, makes a new low, lower high, and now we're making a new low. So unfortunately, Neo is still sliding, getting depressed. Yeah, I know I can absolutely sense the sentiment in the space, right? The crypto space. There is that sense of despair and depression and fatigue, and I get it, because especially, last month was interesting because we had Bitcoin stage a pretty strong rally in the second half of July, and normally that'd be a good thing and everybody would be excited, but it came at the expense of many alts, right? When Bitcoin was making its rally here, every time it went up, the alts took another smashing, and that's not what everybody expected. And once it topped, then Bitcoin started to drop. The alts went down again. It's like, yeah, it's been a tough one, no doubt. Okay, guys, I appreciate you guys being here. Now the fad's not over. I think it's here's my thoughts on this. I mean, if you go to the list here, I mean, let's be honest, right? There's 1,700 plus names on here, 95% of which are just crap. I mean, if anybody doesn't believe that, I mean, you're overly optimistic in this space. Most of this stuff will not survive 5 years, 10 years out. Absolutely will not. But a lot of them will. And platforms will. And there will ultimately be adoption, and there's going to be this. I mean, this is not going away. Will it look different than it does today? Absolutely. The names you see on this list will rotate several times over before the big leaders emerge, before the market cap, continues to hit the recent highs. I mean, a $241 billion market cap is a drop in the bucket compared to traditional market spaces. I mean, this is nothing. So yes, it will survive. I don't think the fad is over, but you guys know where I stand in terms of the names I would hold and all that fun stuff. I mean, you just got to remain nimble because some of these names are so beaten up, and you cannot assume that they will bounce back and go back to their old highs. You absolutely cannot assume that. because many of them won't. You could see some big rallies. Absolutely. You can see some oversold bounce rallies, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to go all the way back up to the highs. And so just something to keep in mind. Space is not dead. Crypto is not dead. And in fact, it's becoming more mainstream. The more that you see about ETFs and exchanges that are going to allow for mutual funds and 401ks and all that, more people are going to start taking up crypto investments as it becomes a little bit more readily accessible from a traditional investment perspective. And you're looking at companies like Coinbase, right? I mean, Coinbase is adding names like 0x potentially and Basic Attention and all that. So the alts are not done. They're not going to go away. You got hedge funds that are going to start investing in altcoins. But the names are absolutely going to change, and we're going to continue to see rotation in the space as the space matures. So just keep that in mind. All right. My in cash, yeah, I'm saying, well, not my HODL account is not 100% in cash, but my trading account is absolutely. So, but yep, some of these are going to survive, guys. So I'm not definitely not writing it off. Absolutely not. And you know what's going to happen is we're going to eventually bottom somewhere, and eventually the next bull run's going to begin, and everyone's going to doubt it. And it's not going to be until prices start breaking above 10K and above their prior highs that the crowd and the mania starts looking at crypto again, going, "Oh shoot, it's happening again! I missed the boat." And it's not going to be until then where you've got this another crazy wild run, and that's just typical market behavior. So, all right, hey guys, thanks for being here. I always appreciate you guys stopping by, making comments, smashing those likes. We'll see how the rest of the week goes. Until next time, happy trading.